The dense canopy of the rainforest shrouds an ancient stone monolith, its carved lintel catching the first thin shaft of morning light that pierces the emerald veil. A lone jaguar's silhouette drifts across the limestone, its eyes reflected in the polished surface of a hidden doorway. Beneath that doorway lies a vaulted tomb, its silence broken only by the distant call of a howler monkey. The air hums with the memory of incense, of drums that once thundered in rhythm with the heartbeats of a kingdom that vanished without a trace. In this moment, the world feels both immense and intimate, as if the very stones are whispering the name of a ruler whose legacy was etched in blood and jade. Around the 7th century CE, the city known to its inhabitants as Lakama, today called Palenque, rose upon a ridge of the Usumacinta lowlands. It was a place where the sky met the earth in a choreography of plazas, causeways, and towering pyramids. The city's pulse was set by the rise of Kinich Janab Pakal, the Great, whose reign began in the year 615 of the long count and whose name still reverberates in the glyphic records. Palenque's artisans fashioned stucco masks that glowed amber in the firelight, while scribes pressed jade and obsidian into the stone to record deeds that would survive the march of centuries. The market buzzed with merchants trading cacao beans, quetzal feathers, and shells, the scent of roasted maize mingling with the sour tang of fermented balch. At the heart of the city, the Temple of the Inscriptions rose like a needle, its stairway a river of stone winding upward toward the heavens, promising access to the divine. The Maya believed that the ruler was a conduit between earth and sky, a living embodiment of the sun's fire, and that his burial would anchor the cosmos for generations to come. The very idea that a single individual could command the forces of rain, maize, and war infused every ceremony, every carving, every whispered prayer. It is this intertwining of myth and stone that compels modern scholars to step into the shadows of Palenque's stone streets, to listen for the echo of a civilization that thrived in a world far removed from our own. The first step onto the Temple of the Inscriptions brings the foot to a platform of polished limestone, cool and smooth beneath the sandal, reflecting the filtered light that dances through the surrounding foliage. The stone bears the faint imprint of centuries of rain, each groove a silent testimony to monsoon seasons that once drenched the city. On the south-facing wall, a carved lintel shows a young Pakal seated upon a throne of jade, his headdress a fan of quetzal feathers, his gaze fixed upon a distant horizon. The glyphic inscription below the figure declares. The inscription reads, "He was born on the 5th day of the month Lamat in the year 9.8.0.0.0." The words, rendered in the sharp, angular strokes of Maya hieroglyphs, echo across the ages, anchoring a precise moment in the celestial calendar that governed agriculture, warfare, and ritual. The air here is thick with the scent of damp earth, a reminder that the rain that once nurtured crops now seeps through the cracks, feeding the moss that clings to the stone like a living tapestry. Ascending the steep, stair-filled causeway, each riser is a step forward in time, the surface worn smooth by the countless feet of priests, nobles, and laborers who carried incense, jade, and ceremonial drums to the summit. The sound of footfalls is muted by the thick canopy, yet the faint echo of a distant drumbeat seems to linger, as if the rhythm of a court ceremony still reverberates within the stone. Carved upon the risers are scenes of mythic battles between serpents and jaguars, their forms rendered in low relief, the edges softened by centuries of rain. The sun, when it pierces through the leaves, creates shafts of golden light that paint the steps in a fleeting glow, highlighting the deep reds of pigment that have survived beneath the limestone crust. The scent of burned copal, sweet, resinous, and sharp, seems to rise from the very stone, conjuring the memory of a ritual offering. At the summit, the temple's inner sanctum opens onto a vaulted chamber whose ceiling arches like the ribs of a great bird. The walls are lined with stucco panels, their surface originally painted in bright ochre, ultramarine, and verdigris, colors that would have dazzled the eyes of any who entered. The chamber is silent, save for the whisper of wind that filters through a narrow slit, carrying with it the faint perfume of blooming orchids that cling to the surrounding cliffs. In the center stands a massive stone throne, its back carved with the stylized mask of a jaguar, eyes set with obsidian that still catch the dim light. Above the throne, a carved panel bears a dedication. The inscription reads, "He who is the Lord of the sky, the sun's own fire, has placed his hand upon the throne of Lakama." This declaration, etched in stone, reflects the Maya belief that the king's very presence was a conduit for celestial power, a living bridge between the world of mortals and the realm of the gods. The most intimate encounter occurs within the burial chamber that lies beneath the temple's core, accessed through a narrow, vaulted passage that descends like a throat into the earth. The chamber's walls are hewn from the same limestone, their surfaces polished to a mirror-like finish that reflects the torchlight in a trembling dance. At its center, a sarcophagus carved from a single block of jade-green limestone rests upon a platform of jade, its lid bearing the intricate relief of a mythic sun disk surrounded by 24 rays, each ray etched with tiny glyphs that describe the ritual calendar. The tomb's air is cool, heavy with the scent of ancient incense that seems to linger long after the flames have long been extinguished. Lying within the sarcophagus is the remains of Kinich Janab Pakal, his jade mask still atop his skull, the eyes of the mask glinting like twin stars in the darkness. Beside the sarcophagus, a jade funerary mask, a set of obsidian knives, and a bundle of turquoise beads lie as offerings, each item meticulously placed to aid the king's journey into the afterlife. The silence here is profound, broken only by the distant rustle of leaves, as if the forest itself guards the secret of the king's final repose. Beyond the temple, the Palace of the Inscriptions unfolds as a complex of courtyards, vaulted chambers, and narrow corridors, each space echoing with the daily rhythms of court life. The outer courtyard is paved with crushed limestone, its surface worn smooth by the tread of nobles in feathered sandals, the scent of fresh rain mixing with the faint aroma of roasted cacao beans that vendors once sold from stalls nearby. Within the palace, a great hall stretches under a high, vaulted ceiling supported by intricately carved columns, each column depicting a stylized serpent coiled around a jaguar, symbols of power and protection. The walls of the hall were originally covered in bright murals portraying scenes of royal ceremony. The colors, though faded, still hint at the original brilliance: emerald greens, deep reds, and luminous golds that would have caught the eye of any visitor. The sound of water flowing from an underground cistern can be heard faintly, a reminder of sophisticated drainage systems. A final scene leads to the Plaza of the Gods, the civic heart where the city's most important rituals unfolded. The plaza is a broad, open space framed by towering pyramids, each faced with a veneer of stucco that once shone like polished alabaster under the tropical sun. The ground is covered with a fine layer of sand, the scent of which is mingled with the lingering perfume of burned copal and the tang of fresh rain. At the center stands a massive altar, its surface scarred by centuries of offerings, blood, jade, and the remnants of ceremonial feasts. The echo of ancient chants seems to rise from the stone, a low hum that vibrates through the air, as if the plaza itself remembers the rhythmic drums that once paced the steps of dancers in elaborate feathered costumes. The plaza's walls bear inscriptions that recount victories over rival city-states, the names of allied nobles, and the divine lineage of the ruling house, each glyph a thread in the tapestry of Palenque's storied past. Today, the ruins of Palenque lie within a protected reserve, the stone faces of the Temple of the Inscriptions standing as silent sentinels over the jungle. The tomb of Pakal has become a focal point for scholars and visitors alike, its jade mask displayed in the on-site museum, the surrounding jungle echoing with the calls of howler monkeys as tourists tread the same stone steps once climbed by priests. Archaeologists continue to uncover hidden chambers beneath the palace, where frescoes still cling to walls, their pigments preserved by the dry, stable microclimate. Modern LiDAR surveys have revealed a network of concealed causeways that stretch beyond the visible core, suggesting that the city's true extent may be far greater than the visible ruins convey. The artifacts recovered, jade pendants, obsidian blades, and fragmentary glyphic tablets, are housed in institutions worldwide, each piece a tangible link to the civilization that flourished over 1,000 years ago. The story of Palenque persists not merely as an archaeological curiosity, but as a reminder of a culture that mastered the interplay of art, astronomy, and architecture to shape its world. The stone, the glyph, the scent of rain on ancient plaster, all converge to paint a portrait of a civilization that, though vanished, continues to speak across the ages. The question remains, what more lies hidden beneath the emerald canopy, awaiting the careful eyes of those who dare to listen?